Hey everyone, Jones here, and welcome back. Today, I kind of want to talk more about um, my transgender journey, I suppose. So in my last video, I talked about how I'm not cross-dressed anymore. I'm just dressing because I have a more feminine body now, or an emerging feminine body, and I'm defining myself as a transgender. I'm defining myself as the word transgender now. And and I kind of want to think. I kind of want to talk about that. I've thought about it in the time since, just kind of, how I got to this, how I got to this point. How did I really arrive at the decision to call myself transgender, or even transition, really? Um, it it's funny because I thought about it for a while, and I feel like the signs have kind of always been there. I never stopped to question. So when I was a kid, I used to dress in my mom's things, and it it was never odd to me anyway. It was just this kind of like thing that I kind of enjoyed. Um, it was just fun dressing up and kind of seeing myself like that in the mirror. It was just kind of this like thing that I enjoyed, and I never really questioned why. But on top of that, there were kind of other things too, other signs that, again, I never stopped to question why. You know how, like, birthday wishes, you make a wish, blow up candles, or, see a shooting star, make a wish, or, if you're driving through a long tunnel, if you can hold your breath during the entire tunnel, then you can make a wish, things like that. Um, this was something that I've never, ever told anybody until now. Um, I only ever had one wish. And the strange thing is, I never questioned it. I never thought why I wanted this wish. It was just something that I wanted. I wanted the power to basically become like any female that I saw. So it could kind of like shapeshifting, but like any like girl or woman or whatever that I looked at, like I wish that I could just kind of like take on her appearance, and then like change back whenever I wanted to. So it's like shapeshifting, but only for females. That's like all I could turn into, and then back to my regular self. It seems like a really really specific thing, but I'm not lying. Like this was a really very specific wish that I wanted, and every birthday, every drive through a long tunnel, every chance I had to make a wish, that was my wish. I wish that I had the power to transform into a girl. That was always my wish, and I don't know why. As odd as it sounds, you may not believe me, but I'm not joking. I'm also kind of a sometimes writer. I do write on occasion, though I haven't written in a long time. Really should get back into it. But there was this like story idea that I came up with back when I was like 12. It's a fantasy story, sword and sorcery fantasy, and the main character, because I used to have a thing for like transforming weapons, so my main character had this magical artifact thing, and this item could transform into like any weapon that it wanted. Like the sides would open up and the blade would shoot out and handle. He had a sword where like the blade would kind of come in halfway and the handle would extend out. And you have a spear. This artifact could transform into like any item that any weapon that he needed, that he wanted. And I don't know. It's just this. It was a fantasy story that I came up with when I was a kid. Okay, just when I was like 12 or 13, and there was something about that item in my story that, even then should have tipped me off, but didn't. So this magical artifact in my story could only be used by women. But my main character is a guy. There was a whole like backstory reason like why he can use it, but like yeah, magical item can only be used by females. Male main character can use it. So, you know, there's another sign that really should have tipped me off, but it didn't. Um, so back during, like, you know, late middle school, early high school, kind of about the time when, like, you know, girls were going through puberty and their bodies were changing. I will admit that at the time I did have a couple of male friends who were the stereotypical horny teenager, horny teenage boy, and you know they'd be checking out the girls for their bodies and things like that. You know, looking at them with a certain lustful eye. You know, I never did that. I looked at the girls and them changing, and I distinctly remember on multiple occasions wishing that would happen to me. I don't know. I mean, that sure as hell seems like a thought that should have, you know, raised a bunch of flags and said, hey, start questioning your gender. But it didn't, because I didn't know what to question. You know, kids and teens these days, like, they're exposed to so much more. You know, through the internet, through memes, through social media, through everything, really. I mean, you know, they know these topics to question. They know these things that they can kind of, you know, ask about, you know, try to figure things out for themselves. That wasn't the case for me. That wasn't the case for my generation. You know, this was before the age of social media, before the age that everyone knew all these things, knew all these topics. You know, I didn't even know what gay was until college. You know, I didn't know about a lot of these sort of topics. I didn't know anything LGBT related. I didn't know that transitioning was a thing. I didn't know gender exploration, gender questioning was a thing that you could do. You know, it's like I wasn't aware of these topics. I wasn't aware of these sort of things, so I just never questioned them. I didn't know what to question. I didn't know that I didn't know. You know? It's weird, you know? Like, I feel like the signs were kind of there, screaming at me in the face. But I never stopped to question. I never asked why. Why did I feel this way? Why was this the case for me, you know? Like, hey, I feel happier as a woman, should, you know, or I, you know, am, I don't know. Even now, I don't even know what questions I would have asked back then. Because, like, you know, some people at a very early age know for certain that something's kind of off with how they feel with themselves, with their bodies, gender-wise, and things like that. And, you know, it wasn't really a thing that I thought about. Like, my gender wasn't a thing that was ever really a concern in my head back when I was younger. Plus, you know, I did have a very I grew up in a very traditionally minded household. My parents were very much about traditional gender roles. Hell, there was a boys' bathroom and a girls' bathroom back at my house. Not kidding. Male members of the family and all the male guests had to use the boys' one. Female guests and female family members had to use the girls' one. That's how it was. I'm not joking. With my mom, how she is, like, I was scared. I was not allowed to freely explore my gender. I had to do it in secret. And, you know, 2.5 years ago, when I started coming out to people, coming out to my friends, and feeling comfortable enough to present as my female self around them, that's, you know, that's where, I think that's where I started really, really questioning things. Having that freedom, having that ability to be open to exploring myself, open to exploring my gender, exploring with pronouns, exploring with names, you know, crossdresser, gender fluid, some other non-binary, what have you. I still find it surprising that I identify as transgender, a little bit, because, you know, it wasn't a thing that I thought to question. It wasn't a thing that I thought to ask about, to ask myself or anyone else about, really. You know, it's just, okay, I have these kind of thoughts about being a woman, being able to transform into a woman, being able to experience puberty as a woman, being able to, or girl or whatever, just all these things that I really seem like they seem like really obvious things that I should have questioned, should have asked about, but I just didn't. I didn't know to question. I didn't know I could ask. You know. Through my cross dressing, through my gender exploration, I guess is what it really was. And being free to live my life like this. Being around my friends all the time, being able to be like this all the time here at my new apartment. It's been nothing but good. It's what helped me, come to the decision that yes, I am trans. And it kind of surprised me. I still find it kind of surprising. It's like, oh, I guess we're trans after all. I guess we're transgender after all. The word transgender wasn't a word I even heard of until, a few years ago, really. I was kind of defining myself kind of in my own terms. Cross-dressing was a thing that I liked. It was just this hobby turned lifestyle that I enjoyed and pursued and always sought to do better. And, grew confident enough to share this with my friends, with my siblings, with these people in my life, and have felt absolutely welcome to do it around them and be myself around them. And I love them so much for allowing me to do this, for feeling so normal. And, maybe that's it. Maybe that's how it all happened. It's like I felt as if my gender exploration wasn't a thing that I could really do early on. It wasn't a thing that I felt comfortable sharing early on. And then kind of once that happened, once we started coming out to people, 2.5 years ago, and just kind of feeling so much more content and confident and just happier. Just the way that I looked in the mirror, the way that I felt around my friends and being around people as my female self, as Joanna. And maybe that's really kind of what it took, I could explore myself on my own, but it wasn't enough. I needed to know that, not just that myself wanted to change, but that I was okay having everyone else be okay with me changing? I don't know. I do think that is kind of part of it. Not having that freedom or comfort, and not feeling safe to explore this around people. During my early years, getting caught when I was a kid, having to sneak around, during my 7 years of doing this. No, I think just kind of having my friends and just everyone, being so cool with this, understanding that this is a normal lifestyle for me. So, I think that's something that I definitely needed, because that's something that was absolutely missing from my gender exploration, really. I mean, I call it cross-dressing, but perhaps that's kind of what it was all along, Maybe all along, I never asked questions. I never questioned. It was just, I enjoy cross-dressing. I enjoy this thing, this odd thing. Why? Dressing makes me happy. Seeing myself in the mirror as a woman, as passable as I can make myself, and being out in public and just being around these people and being accepted by these strangers and living my life as a woman makes me happy. It seems so obvious in hindsight, but I never questioned it. I never asked myself, why does it make me so happy? Why do I feel so much more confident as my female self? I don't know. And I think it took being around my friends, being around my brother, being my female self around these people that are totally supportive and accepting of this. I think that's kind of what I really needed. I needed to feel safe. I needed that safety. I needed that sense of comfort around people, knowing that, this is definitely what I want to do. And I don't know. I don't know if this makes any sense. Like, again, I am transgender. What a surprise! I'm kind of surprised myself that I decided to start defining myself by this word, and it doesn't feel wrong at all. Yeah, when my last video, when I decided to come out about being defining myself as trans, I recorded that 3 weeks ago. So, and in that time since, I don't feel any sort of apprehension. I don't feel odd by calling myself this word. I feel just fine. And maybe that's really the only important thing, Maybe that's the important thing. When I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm just overwhelmed with happiness. Maybe that's really all it takes. Just make me happy. But, even if I didn't know to question, even if I didn't question myself early on, I don't think necessarily makes my being transgender invalid. I don't think that necessarily, just because I didn't know from the get-go, from early on in my life, just because I didn't know to question myself, I didn't know to do it until more recently, I don't think that in any way invalidates, my reasoning. I don't think that invalidates, me choosing to define myself as this way. Really, I'm just happy. I'm just so much happier, and at the end of the day, that's really the important thing. At least for me, anyway. But yeah, so I kind of want to share this with you guys. Just kind of how I think I came to defining myself as trans, and kind of why I didn't define myself this way earlier. Truth be told, I just didn't know to. And, even then, like, I'm still really happy. And, yeah, that's really the important thing. Anyways, I'm gonna cut it here. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.